Oh, yeah.
But you can set
Mhm.
boundaries on your calendar.
Absolutely.
That is a thing we can do.
Mhm.
But it's so easy to, as you said, people please and, "Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
could squeeze this in here and I could squeeze this in here." And then you look and you're like, "Oh, I'm booked back to back to back to back to back all day, and I didn't even think about when I'm gonna eat lunch,
Absolutely.
let
Yep.
alone think for a few minutes or
Mhm.
rest or
Right.
prepare for karate," right?
And sometimes not even lunch. It's like eat. Oh, it's 4 o'clock. I have not eaten anything.
Whole day.
You
Yeah.
and it's not an intentional fast. It's just, oh shoot, this happened.
Right. Hey, I'm Teen Zekas.
And hey, I'm Ilika Follette. We are business owners and moms with corporate backgrounds, and we are all about getting Black women paid in both corporate and business.
And you're listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast.
Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. I am Teen Zekas, your pivot and pay strategist.
I am Ilika Follette, your business strategist.
And today we are talking about a very important topic, especially for Black women, and it's don't be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
So many of us are Superwoman, right? We are doing the job, we're doing the side business, we're the mom, we're the wife, we're the community upholder, we're volunteering on the PTO,
Right.
and we are doing so many things and stretching ourselves so thin and criticizing ourselves for not doing every single thing flawlessly. Right? And this is about, you know what, we don't need to be a superhero. This episode is about taking off your cape and saying, I am a human being with limitations and with priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can we figure out what our priorities are? What are the things that are the most important for us to be present for, to have the energy for? And what are the things that we can set aside? And I know, Ilika, you have a specific tale about this. So
Yeah.
give us an update on your life and how things are going.
Yes, it's funny. Even as we're talking about that, it actually, you know me, I always have to go back to a story that and then come through. But thinking about growing up, many times looking at our moms,
Yeah.
they were doing so many things, and we just thought it was normal. And so did they. They
Yeah.
got used to, I know my mom got used to working 8 hours a day and then coming home and cooking dinner and cleaning up the house and
Mm-hmm.
taking us to 10 million activities. And my dad helped too, but still, as the mom, you feel like you're supposed to do all these things and take on everything.
That was the
And
expectation. And it was, if dad is going to help, she's going to have to say, she's also going to have to be delegating that, right? She's also going to be the one still doing the mental calculations of, well,
right.
this has to get done, so I'm going to ask him to do this, right? It's still on her
It's a
overall.
lot, especially in so many people's lives where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, I've got to make sure, groceries are in the refrigerator for me to even cook dinner.
Yep.
My mom went grocery shopping every day,
Whew.
every single day because,
Mm.
and I always thought, why do you do it every day? Why not just once a week and get everything? She couldn't create the space in her brain to say
Right.
what we're going to have for dinner the rest of the week. She could only think about right now
Mhm.
today with 4 freaking daughters who all had a bunch of stuff to do and hair to
Mhm.
do, right?
Yep.
And married and, having a job and all
Yeah.
these things. She couldn't think about it enough. She couldn't think past.
Right. When was she going to be sitting down and meal planning and then what now prepping those, chopping up vegetables for the week, right? That's
Right.
not
I was
happening.
always amazed by women that did that. And I remember one of my friends, her mom did all that stuff.
Mhm.
But looking back, I also remember her mom worked part-time,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So she had another 4 hours in her day, or actually closer to 5 because she doesn't have to commute, right?
Hmm.
She had more time in her day to be able to do those things.
Right. Well, and you also bring up a great point. We do so much comparing, right? Oh, why
Mhm.
isn't this person doing this when this other person is doing it? And we're not seeing the whole picture of their life. And
Exactly.
maybe that thing is a priority to them, and they're not
Mhm.
doing 5 of the things you're doing.
Exactly. Because I'm sure you're also, and I'm talking to you out there, the woman who sees herself in this. You're
Hmm.
also, head of the usher board, right? At church, right?
Yep.
You're on the
Right. You're
PTA, but you're
volunteering
not
for the
just
bake
right,
sale. You're
exactly.
doing
You're
all
not
the
just
things.
on the PTA. You're the treasurer,
Yeah.
you're or the president, right? You're on the HOA board at your in your housing complex, and
Hmm.
you're actually a secretary of the HOA. And not only am I talking to you, I'm talking to me because I am
Yeah.
the the vice president of the HOA.
Right. These aren't random examples. These aren't these aren't theoretical.
It's not theoretical at all. It's yes, I am. I
Yeah.
am on that.
Yeah.
It's so funny because even though we looked at our moms and now as adults we look and we're like, wow, you were just human trying to be a full superhero, right?
Yeah.
And then as we looked at them and gave them grace now as adults, we didn't give them grace as children because we were
No, we
a-holes.
sure didn't.
We were absolute a-holes. So we didn't give them
Sorry,
grace then.
sorry, mom. I know you're watching this, and so
Right,
sorry for not
right.
giving you grace at the
Sorry, mom.
time.
I actually did call my mom and apologize and thank her a few
Mm.
years ago for this. But it's so funny because it's like we didn't give them grace then, but we give them grace now. But yet we don't give our and yet we're not giving ourselves grace. We're
Absolutely.
still thinking, oh, oh, my mom had to go and do all that. My heart goes out to her. Not looking at our whole to-do list, right?
Right.
Seeing
Right.
all the things that we've created and being like, oh my gosh.
Well, because we don't even realize we've created it. We just think, well, these are the things I have to do. And we don't think, well, who says I have to do them?
Right.
Who
Mhm.
who is dictating that? Because it's either
Exactly.
you or someone who maybe doesn't matter.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? It's an expectation from coming from someone else
Mhm.
when really it's not what you want to be doing.
Right. It's an expectation that's been pushed down too. Like something that we thought was, oh, when I grow up, I'll be married, I'll have kids, and of course I'll have my kids in soccer and karate and, track and all these different things.
Mhm.
And sure, I'll be a soccer mom. I've got the minivan and I'm taking them to all these things. I actually have a minivan, FYI, and I'm
Of
taking
course
them.
you do, you got 4 kids.
Yeah, that's true. We couldn't get in a regular car. Taking them to all these different things. And it's just like sometimes it starts to feel like too much.
Yeah.
So
Well,
last night, oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I just wanted to also say, I said maybe it's something you don't want to do, but I want to amend that. Maybe it's something you want to do, but it's not your priority now, right?
Right.
Because maybe it is, I like being on the PTA or I like doing this thing, but that can't be the priority now. Maybe I could do that next year or in 2 years when things settle
Mhm.
down at work or when my kids are a little older and can be a bit more independent in this way, right? That there can be seasons of
Mhm.
different things that you want to do and they don't have to all be happening right now at all at once.
Exactly. Because that's a big thing, right? It's like thinking that we not only do we have to do everything or want to do everything, we have to do it all right now, today. It all has to be done today.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's where we step into the crap, right? That's where we
Yeah.
put our foot right in and we can't get it out.
Yeah. And I
Um,
interrupted you, but you were about to say something about last night.
yeah, yeah, last night. So yesterday, this week has been a really, really actually these last few weeks have been a really rough few weeks for me in terms of like my schedule, just with the big contract, right, that I'm
Mhm.
on now and what we're doing there. But and so that's taking a chunk of my day, and then the couple of other things that I'm doing with the ladies that I'm working with to in the wellness program that I created, the membership.
Mhm.
Um, Fit Mommy Makeover. So that is taking time. And then also, I'm a mentor for doctors, well, physicians, nurse practitioners, and folks who are in the health business
Mhm.
space, right? Who have their own health businesses. So doing all these things, last night around, I think it was, I can't say night, yesterday, around 4:30, when
It felt like night because you'd already done more than a day's worth of stuff. Okay.
right, exactly. Literally, I had been on calls from 9:30 to 4:30.
No.
And yeah. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
like there was one call where I was just eating during the call. Like I hadn't eaten anything. It was like it was almost 2 o'clock. And I was just like, I'm just gonna be eating,
Because
guys. So
you're a human
right,
being and not a machine.
exactly.
Okay.
So I'd been on calls all day and I sat down and the kids were like, Mommy, are we going to karate? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And I was like, you know what? I don't think so, guys. Not unless daddy's going to be able to take you today. I can't do it, you know? And
Mm,
so, and then it was like, well, Mommy, can I have this? Can I do this? And I was just like, just go do whatever. I'm cool. Mommy's going to sit here for the next, I don't know how long. Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
when my husband came in, he's like, hey, don't they have karate today? I was like, babe, you got to take them or they're not going. I can't do it today. Like I'm so beat.
Yeah.
Like after this entire week, and then today, or yes, this was yesterday. I was like, I'm just so beat. And he's like, you know what? I am too. I think they're just not going to go to karate today. Like he fell asleep on the couch. Like he got home around 5:30. He fell asleep. I laid there. I wasn't even asleep, but I was in just like a
Just
just
a
like a whole days. And I was
haze.
just like,
Yeah.
I've got to really like, I've got to take some responsibility for this, number one, because that's the first step is saying, you know what? I created this. Nobody
Mhm.
else created this situation where I have a list of 90 things to do. Because normally I'm able to manage a to-do list like nobody's business. Like
Mhm.
it's something I've taught people. I've had whole programs on how
Right.
to reclaim your time and manage your to-do list. And I'm a little bit of a people pleaser, right?
Mhm.
And I am a hater of quitting or failing, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
I like it like nauseous, right? If I
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
if I quit something or fail at something.
Yeah.
And so those two, all three of those things together, right, in one person, I will take on everything and
Right.
usually be able to manage it very well, and then until I can't.
Right.
And that was yesterday.
Right. Well, and it's very easy to say for each thing, "Oh, someone put this on my calendar. Oh, this is
Mhm.
the only time they can meet." And it feels like it's just happening to you,
Oh, yeah.
but you can set
Mhm.
boundaries on your calendar.
Absolutely.
That is a
Mhm.
thing we can do,
Mhm.
but it's so easy to, as you said, people please and, "Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
could squeeze this in here, and I could squeeze this in here," and then you look and you're like, "Oh, I'm booked back to back to back to back to back all day, and I didn't even think about when I'm gonna eat lunch,
Absolutely.
let
Yep.
alone think for a few minutes or
Mhm.
rest or
Right.
prepare for karate," right?
Mhm. And sometimes not even lunch, it's like, eat. Oh, it's 4 o'clock. I have not eaten anything,
Whole day. Yeah.
and it's not an intentional fast. It's just, "Oh, shoot, this happened," you
Right.
know? So
Right.
and it's yeah, thinking about those things, putting that stuff together and being more intentional about our calendar and also our needs in the moment, our priorities in the moment
Mhm.
is super key. And I think that, as we're having this conversation around tips and just strategies around how we can put too much on ourselves, thinking we're, Superwoman. I feel like in my mind, Superwoman stands with her arms, you
Right, you gotta have
know.
that pose, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the Superwoman pose went from this to, the
Oh, the
you know what
crossed
I'm saying?
arms.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
crossed arms picture in everybody's
I have a
Instagram.
I have a headshot with the arms crossed, and my husband always says it's the, "Imma clean up this town." Like, that's the look I'm going.
That's exactly what it says. I didn't even I've never thought about that, but I always thought it doesn't look like
Right, it's
it
like a
doesn't look
politician
like
kind of,
yeah,
right?
it
Like, "I'm
does.
a"
It gives that. It doesn't look like the business person that everybody is going for. Because I
Right.
have it too. I have the same,
Yeah, that
whatever it is.
arms
I can't
crossed,
even do
yeah.
the arm move. You know what I'm talking about. I have it too, right? but it definitely gives the I'm going to clean up this town. And I've never thought about it until just
He's
now.
he's very good at placing those things. It's very funny. But so yes, so this is about, okay, so how can we take off the cape, right? How can
Yeah.
we take a break? Somebody else could clean up
Mhm.
this town, right? It doesn't have to be us. And
Exactly.
obviously sometimes it does take that moment where it's like I can't even go on.
Hmm.
And it's no shame if you get to that point. But also,
Right.
how can we be intentional to avoid that? To,
Hmm.
to avoid getting to that point where it's I just can't even
Exactly.
conceive of how I would take the kids to karate or make dinner or, whatever the next thing to do is. It's like I just can't.
Yeah.
How do we be intentional about our time and our energy and our commitments
Hmm.
before getting to that point? So I'd love to talk about some tips. Like, what are the things that we can be doing, whether we are in business for ourselves or we are employed through an organization? Like, what are the things that we can be doing?
You know, one thing that is helpful, and I've always done this, but then these last couple of weeks, team knows this. The last couple of weeks, I've had a death in the family, and then things have gotten heavier with the different contracts and
Mhm.
work that I'm doing, and so it was like everything happened at once. So I stopped. I hadn't been doing this for probably the past month, and it's in the morning taking that mental, almost that mental health check in, like,
Mm.
where am I? As soon as you wake up, it's like, okay, where am I today? Meaning, like, not where am I? Like, am I
Like,
home?
physically, hopefully
No, no,
hopefully we know where
I've
we are
done that
physically.
before. but but it's like, where am I mentally? Am
Mhm.
I in a space where I can just get up and go? And today's going to be one of those days where I get my workout in and I do all these things. Or am I in a space where I actually need to just rest? I
Yeah.
need some peace of mind today. Am I overly anxious today? Am I
Mm.
overly, tired? Do I have a million things on my list that I feel like I can't even manage? What is actually happening with me right now? So it's almost like that self check in,
Yeah.
you know? And that's a part of self care too that a lot of folks don't think about, is that
Mhm.
self check in of where am I mentally right now, that to help me understand what I can take on today.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you mentioned that as kind of the first tip, because it is the first step. It's the first thing you do at the beginning of the day, and then it also helps to guide you on, okay, well, this is a day I can just kill it. I'm just going to go there and get as much done as I can. I feel really productive. I feel really energized. Or
Mhm,
this is actually a day where I'm going to have to employ some strategies, right? Some of
mhm,
these next tips that are coming, right?
right.
About maybe I need to delegate some things. Maybe I need to
Mhm,
move some things to another time. Maybe I need to cancel
mm,
some stuff that's
yes,
not going to happen.
exactly. Yep. And that leads to, like, the second thing that I normally look to do for the day, which is I look at, like, I say visualize, but I literally look at my calendar and look at, like, the things that I need to do, and I visualize what that day will look like.
Mm.
And in that visualization, I'm not pie in the sky visualizing only, right? I add some pie in the sky in there because that's just who I am
Sure,
naturally.
right. Here's me knocking out that sales call, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I add all that in there. And, looking at, okay, am I overdoing it? Is this call going to go over and now squeeze
Mm.
into this next one? Or am I really going to be able to get out between 12 and 1 and do these errands that I've pretended in my head that I'm going to do? Like,
Right. Right.
like, am I really going, and am I even in a space, check in, right? And today, am I in a mental space where I can take that on? Because there are some days where I can get everything done during that 12 to 1 or that 2 to 3
Mhm.
or whatever it is. I've got some empty space between 2 and 4. I'm gonna get all these 17 things done. There are days when it's like, you got it.
Yeah.
And there are days when you just don't, And so
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
visualization, seeing it like realistically visualizing helps to actually set that day forward too.
Mm.
Right? And it helps to decide, okay, are there some things on today's schedule, quote unquote, because you created the schedule that need to
Mhm.
be shifted.
Yeah.
And that's when I do what I call, and it's something I've taught for years in my Reclaim Your Time program, which was, I call it, and it's come from a few different things, but I added and modified. So it's you've probably heard of schedule, delete, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have do, schedule, delete, delegate,
Yes.
right? And so bringing those things together, and now I look at that same calendar as I visualize it and I say, okay, what actually doesn't have to happen today? You know,
Mm-hmm.
am I having a call with someone that I could actually, we could actually reschedule that? Am I putting on there to go grocery shopping when I could actually Instacart it, delegating it, right? Am I
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, are there things on my list that there's actually an easier way to
Right.
simplify it and get it done? And then what on there can I just delete altogether? You know,
Right.
I often joke, I would joke when I speak on this about how, I had this vision of moving to Texas in 5 years, right? Because it's better weather, it's cheaper, it's, you can get more bang for your buck, whatever, right? Got a lot of friends and family there. I was like, we're gonna move to Texas. I used to hate Texas, by the way. And then all of a sudden I was like, I should just move there. But so I had this
And
vision of
things
moving
change in different seasons of our lives.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm gonna move to Texas, right? And I'd be on so during in the midst of this massive to-do list, I'd have the nerve to like be on Redfin and Zillow looking up houses in Texas, right?
Yep.
And it's like, chick, you're not moving to Texas. At least, first of all, you're probably never moving to Texas. That's number one, right? If it does happen, minimum 5 years, minimum. More
Right.
likely,
The
it's
the houses you're looking at right now will not still be on the market when it's time, right?
not even close. It's
Uh-huh.
like so stuff like that, and it's
Mhm.
I'm being facetious, but actually I did do that. But it's a
Yeah.
facetious story, but it's like things like that can literally be deleted off the schedule. And
Right.
you may not even have it listed on the schedule, but it's something you keep running to do, right?
Or you can build in time to dream,
Mm-hmm.
to daydream, or to make plans, right? And
Yes.
but be intentional about that and maybe even put it on the schedule, right?
Right.
And say, "You
Mhm.
know what? I am gonna spend 30 minutes on Zillow because I like to,
Right.
and I'm not going to hold myself to something else during that time."
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's about what you
Exactly.
wanna do.
Right, exactly. So it's like you get to decide what those things to delete are, you
Mhm.
know? And for me, Texas, it was a delete, right? So
It was a delete, yeah.
it was a delete, right?
Well, and so I wonder, for those of us who are working as employees and, meetings are just getting put on our calendar and we do
Mhm,
not feel in control of our schedule, right? We've been saying
mhm,
you control your schedule, you put that there. What advice do we have for folks who are saying, my schedule, I don't get to decide what goes on
mhm.
my calendar?
I think that's something that we have created again in ourselves, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
get to decide, but guess what? If you put on your calendar appointment, like I
Yep.
literally will
Yep.
sometimes just put appointment so that I could block off time
Yeah.
because it can get because people will schedule anytime that looks open.
Right. And the first thing I do when I start a job, I
Wow.
go into the
Mhm.
calendar and I put in my lunch hour,
Yeah. Mhm.
repeating every day
Yeah.
for,
Exactly.
never
10
ending. I put
yeah,
in my lunch hour.
exactly.
And one thing I've been doing for the last maybe couple of years is I've been putting an hour a day called heads down. And
Yes.
people
Mhm.
don't schedule meetings during that time. I mean, sometimes people will say, "Oh, I see there's something. Can we move that?"
Mhm.
When they're asking that, you get to answer that honestly. You
Yeah.
you don't have to say yes because they asked.
Right.
You
Exactly.
could say, "You know what? I really can't make it. You can have that meeting without me."
Mhm.
Or, "I can't make it. Can you put it on a different day?"
Right.
It doesn't have to be yes because someone's asking, but we so often say, "Well, someone put this here, now I have to do it."
Mhm.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you have to
Exactly.
do it for every
Mhm.
single one? So it is, there are ways to say these are my boundaries.
Yeah.
This is what's on my calendar. And even if you are willing to wiggle things around on a given day,
Mhm.
then it's, well, where is that time going? instead, right? It's not, okay,
Exactly.
well, I just don't get my heads down time today. Maybe it's, okay, well, I'm going to do my heads down in the morning instead of the afternoon,
Mhm.
but I'm still going to get that time for myself. And that could be heads down for work stuff. It could be,
Mhm.
that's my time on Zillow, right? That's my,
Exactly.
right? Like whatever it is that you want to be doing,
Exactly.
you have more control
Then you
than your
realize.
initial instinct
Mhm.
dictates. And that's, I think,
So
the message I
funny.
want to
Yeah,
drive home for folks. You have more control than
exactly.
what we've been telling
Mhm.
ourselves.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I remember for years when I was at, the big companies, right? I would literally work even on vacation. I think I've
Mm.
mentioned this before. I worked on my honeymoon, you know,
Oh,
and it's like
I don't think you've mentioned that before. That hurt my soul when you said that. Oh.
on my honeymoon. I was, taking
Mhm.
I probably even took a call or two, right? So
Mm.
and we were in Europe and everything, right? And I do it off hours, so it wasn't like I was doing it during things, but it would be like off hours, like early in the morning or late at night if we weren't
Yeah.
doing anything. I'd get on, check my email because we didn't have cell phones that we could check email on back then. I think, this
Right.
was flip phone time, right? Or it was like Palm Pilot or whatever,
The BlackBerry or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like this is that long ago. So I'm like, I was literally, working on my honeymoon, and every vacation after that, it just was ingrained to me to work during the vacations, during like it was just normal. And I remember I went to another company and I was talking about, work. Oh yeah, I'll be on vacation that day, but I'll definitely be able to take that call. And I remember they like stop me in my tracks. Like, no, you're on vacation. I will
Yeah.
not have you working on vacation. And
Good.
so what I realized is I had created that. I'd set that like
Mhm.
it was like a norm at the big company.
Mhm.
But the
But
thing is,
you
I
but
knew people
you
who didn't
allowed it.
exactly because I knew people who didn't. I knew people who did not work on their vacations.
Mhm.
And at this new company, they were like, no, we won't even allow it. But I knew people who did work on vacations.
Right.
And
Right.
so in that, I realized it wasn't necessarily the company. It could even be
Mhm.
in the culture. Who cares? It's
Right.
us who decided,
Right.
you know?
And there are ways to help yourself hold that boundary. For
Hmm.
instance, I recently I went to a conference for my business. I took PTO from my day job. I went to
Yeah.
this conference and I went into my phone and I turned off Slack notifications
Ooh.
because I
Hmm.
was like, I don't want the ping when someone's like, "Hey, this team, do you have the answer to this?" Like, I don't want to be
Yeah.
even looking at it because I'm
Hmm.
going to get sucked in.
Yeah.
Right? And it
100%.
doesn't and they know my status says I'm out. They know I'm
Right.
out, and when they're pinging the team, I still get a ping. So it's not even that they're saying, "Teen, it has to be you."
Yeah.
They're saying like, "Hey, team." I guess those sound very similar.
It
You know,
does.
"Hey, this team, do you have the answer to this question?" And someone else is gonna handle that because 'cause I'm not there. I
Right.
don't need to be
Exactly.
checking and being like, "Oh, well, did they know that they could have checked here?" Like, no. And so
Mhm.
some of it is what do you need to do for yourself to maintain that boundary?
Exactly. Yep. How can
And
you decide
right, maybe it's not logging into your email while you're out or,
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
But,
Turning
um,
off the notifications is gold because those
yeah,
notifications get us, constantly.
and it takes our attention from whatever it is
Mhm.
we're doing.
Which takes also your brain. Like it
Mhm.
takes a second to actually shift your brain back into the thing that you were doing.
Right, to be
Mhm.
present where you are. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
I love
I
that.
love that we've talked about so many strategies we can do, but
Mhm.
I also want to give an update
Yeah.
to our viewers and listeners about the show
Mhm.
very closely related to the topic we've been talking about. So,
Yeah.
Ailika, tell us a little bit about what's
Yeah.
happening with you.
Yeah. So my schedule has gotten wild. And one of the things, as we're talking about prioritizing, I realize I care so much about getting Black women paid, this podcast, and what we're doing in the mission overall.
Mhm.
And I have to self preserve at times as well. So we're making a shift where I'll be on once a month as a special guest, showing up talking about these
Mhm.
other spaces around like the business strategy and stuff. And the team will also continue talking about the business strategy throughout the other episodes. On top of that, I'll also be giving a lot around the health space of it, like the mindset spaces and the, routines and the, even that physical health that can help us get things in order to be set to get paid, right?
Yeah.
Um, in the meantime, we want to ensure that, and I'm going to pass it off to you in a second too, team. But in the meantime, we want to ensure that we continue to get amazing voices who are speaking on getting Black women paid, different strategies, processes, things that they're doing, spaces, new innovations that, that really allow this culture to continue to grow and continue to grow monetarily, because you know what?
That
It's
part.
time. Right? Like we talked about, several episodes ago, we talked about, actually a couple months ago now, we talked about the equal pay day, right? Black women's equal pay day, right? Being a freaking 8 months almost after, a white man, right? So like that is ridiculous. Like we've talked about this. So how do we close that gap? And these are the things that we want to, bring in more and more people to begin talking about, because there's ways to close that gap in corporate, and there's ways to close that gap through your own business. So that is a major motivation for us.
Yeah. And so, to that end, yes, we're going to be having more solo episodes from me, but also we really want to emphasize bringing on guests. If you are a Black woman who wants to speak about a topic related to getting Black women paid, right? If you have strategies to share, if you have a problem space that you have a solution for, if you want to share your story of how you increased your income or how you started your business, please apply to be a guest on the podcast. We would love to, again, talk with more and more diverse voices as we talk about all the different ways of getting Black women paid. And so if you are interested, you can get on, there's an application link in the show notes, but also you can go to gettingblackwomenpaid.com/podcast. And if you scroll all the way down, there's an application there to be a guest. We would love to have you. And that will help us to keep the conversation going and help Miss Ailika prioritize the other things in her life.
Definitely.
Take off that cape, my dear.
It's gone. And what's so funny is, even when you take off the cape, you be looking for it, right? We be looking for it, like, where is it again? Because it's time for me to be Superwoman again, So let it go for good. Just go and send it out to Goodwill.
I love it. And so for all of you, we encourage you again to please take off the cape. Don't be a hero. You are a human being. You deserve rest, and, figure out what are the priorities right now. Those things can shift, reevaluate, and let go of the things that are not serving you right now. And if one of the things you do want to do is get on this podcast, apply to be a guest, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Talk to you later.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, subscribe wherever you're listening now.
And if you loved what you heard, be sure to leave us a review. And make sure you share the podcast with incredible Black women in your life, so we can continue getting Black women paid.
All right. We'll see you in the next one.